Hello, podcast listeners. We know podcasts are a great way to catch up on a program that you may have missed on KSJE, and it's provided as a free service of this radio station. But you know, KSJE is now listener supported, and so while you enjoy this podcast, we hope that you'll also take some time to join KSJE. Become a member today. It's quite easy to do. Just go to our website at ksje.com/support and pick the level of support that best matches your budget. Thanks again for listening. Here's your podcast. So let me turn to my guest who is here with us this morning, as I mentioned, to help me wrap up the school year in Bloomfield schools. Dr. Kim Mizel is joining me from her offices in Bloomfield this morning. Dr. Mizel, good morning. Thanks for joining me this morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you with us. And it is almost the end of the school year for you and your student staff and everybody else and teachers, correct?
Yeah. Yes, we're winding things up.
Very good. You've got graduation set for this week.
Yes, Friday.
And in person, of course?
Yep. And no limits on who comes.
Very good. Well, that's exciting. I know a lot of folks are excited to be back for in-person events, graduations, and other things as well. So as we wrap up this school year, I wanted to offer congratulations. Your students, a group of your students won first place at the Hawk Tank competition. That is the business plan competition sponsored by Fort Lewis College and San Juan College. They took first place in the student division with a business idea called Mesa Music.
Right. Yes, they are. It's exciting because we just started our business program about 2 years ago. So this is a good accomplishment for that program, and we're excited for the students. They received money and scholarship funds, and so the Bloomfield kids did well. We're proud of them.
Yeah, no kidding. This was an idea, I think, for a musical instrument kind of retail store and repair operation. That was the whole idea, correct?
Right. So to open up a business and how they would manage it and the components of that, the operation of the business.
Very, very good. And so your students, as I understand it, won about $8,000 in scholarship monies, and each one won about $500 apiece for the winning idea.
Yeah, so they were successful and represented the district well.
That is significant. So very good. Well, congratulations to them and to Bloomfield Schools, and very exciting. The other thing I wanted to ask you a bit about was a recent award for your transportation department that the school board presented.
Yes, every year the school board selects an individual or one of our organizations within the district to recognize them for the work that they do in our district. And our bus drivers have been champions throughout the entire COVID, the pandemic, and also just getting the kids to school. It's never easy. Our bus drivers drive a long way every day, picking kids up and getting them to school, and they've done a great job. So we just wanted to show our appreciation for the work that they do.
Well, congratulations to them. And you're right. You've told us, time and time again, just how long some of those bus routes are in the Bloomfield School District, because not everyone, I don't think we always realize that the district extends south from the city of Bloomfield along Highway 550 quite a distance, right?
Yeah, we go all the way out to Liebrook.
Very good.
So, yeah.
That's quite a ways.
An hour out, hour and a half.
Right. Well, good for them. Tell me what else is going on as we wrap up the school year. And, of course, I know your teachers and your staff have been working now that students are back face-to-face and getting them ready to complete the school year and look forward to next year, as I mentioned, in August, of course. But how is the school year wrapping up for your staff and students?
We're doing well. We will be giving those cars away. That are coming up on the 18th. We give 2 cars away for students that maintain a 3.5 GPA or higher, and we have 54 students that are eligible for that, and so that'll be on Thursday, so that's always an exciting event. We also, in our calendar, have made a change for next year, so I just kind of want to let people know. We will be doing half-day Mondays all year to provide opportunity for professional development for teachers and trainings and things like that. We have quite a few teachers that retired, and um, in the school system, you have to always bring things back and revisit some of the programs that you have with new teachers, and so this will afford us the opportunity to do that with them.
Got you. And so that will be a change for the next school year for all grades. Is that all grades?
All grades. Mm-hmm.
Got you. Good to know. And your advice for the summer for kids? I know there's always that summer slide that people talk
Yeah.
about with students. Do you see that in the fall sometimes?
Yes, we have summer regression. We will be providing summer school for students the month of June. So if a parent is interested in their child going to the summer school program, contact the school that their child is in right now. And then also, I just want to encourage parents not to take a break from reading, having their child read or read to them, and also doing math skills, just basic math skills throughout the summer. Take some time on a daily basis to just reinforce what they learned last year, so that they don't have that regression after the summer, and they can start strong at the beginning of the year in August.
Right. Very, very good. Are you seeing, it seems like a mixed bag sometimes of reports of how kids have done this past year, looking at the past couple of years with remote learning and not being able to be in class and then getting back into class and things along that line. Have kids been able to pretty much bounce back, or those that maybe had some difficulties, have they gotten the help they need to kind of get back up to the grade level where they need to be this time of year?
Yes, we have. We've noticed some trends with some groups of kids. So, for example, in Bloomfield, we did not have the one-to-one computer systems or computers for children in kindergarten, first, second. We did have it for third, I believe. So those students, we are seeing them right now. They'll be the third and second graders now. They are behind. And so we have done a lot of intensive work with them. And I haven't seen the final data just yet, but that's why we're also offering summer school to do some catch up with them. It's just concerning for those students that are behind, because we don't want them to struggle all through their educational process. So it's unfortunate that happened, but we're doing everything we can to support them, and that the parents have to recognize it's not the kids' fault, and we're going to all have to do double time. It's a partnership between parents and schools.
Sure. And it's not only unique to Bloomfield, I would think, too, right? There are a lot of school districts that are probably facing some of these same issues, don't you think?
I've heard this something very similar with many districts. The other thing is we had quite a few parents not send their kids to kindergarten. During COVID, they just thought they'd just keep them at home rather than sending them. And those students also are delayed in their learning. And so it's important that they get into the schools and have that social interaction, and also the instruction that they need to become successful in academics, basically.
Right. And with that, at such a young grade level, early grade level, Dr. Mizel, I mean, you mentioned that it may impact them further on during their educational careers. And that, to me, rough math would be, what about 10, 11 years, right? If this isn't kind of worked on early and these children help to bring back up to where they need to be?
Yeah, so we have to do a lot of mitigation on this. And we've added some positions. Even at the high school, we've added some positions to support students and teachers, just because of the concerns that we have with certain groups of students. And hopefully it will help, but it's going to take a team of people to address the needs.
Right. And as you mentioned, the parents or guardians are a really important part of that team, right? You can't do it without their support at home, can you?
Right. And I think the most important thing is that the parents recognize where their child is and what needs to happen to get them where they need to be. we're communicating with these parents, but sometimes parents tend to be in denial sometimes, and they don't want to recognize the needs that their child has to maybe have to work harder or support them better. And so it's important that you have that partnership and the communication with the schools on what needs to happen for their child. It's concerning that, it's really not the kid's fault. And that's so sad because they're going to have to really work hard to catch up.
Right. But you will have resources for them to help them do
Right.
that, right, with the hard work.
Right.
And
We will provide what we have set forth to do the work that needs to happen for them. It's just a matter of the parents, making sure they're ready to go to summer school if they need it, or working with them during the summer. I would recommend that parents ask their teachers, do you have some materials that you would like us to focus in on over the summer with our child, and see what the teacher can provide as well. I have seen some very good early childhood books and things like that at Sam's Club. So take advantage of some of those things that are available out there, and continue to work with your children over the summer.
Right. It seems to me, Dr. Mizel, that some work now will, as we said, will help avoid maybe some more serious, maybe learning deficiencies or other learning issues later in their school careers, is what you're mentioning.
Right, and that's key to everything for these students. If they go home and they watch TV all summer, or they're not doing anything academically, sometimes you can have as much as a half a year regression, and these students cannot afford that.
Right. I don't think any student could afford that. Do you?
No, but it happens often, and so it makes it even more difficult the gap gets wider and wider for those students in their academic abilities. So I can't emphasize that parents take time in a day, maybe 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the afternoon or whatever, to work with their children.
Good advice and important information. Dr. Kim Mizel is my guest this morning. She is the superintendent of schools with the Bloomfield School District. And Dr. Mizel, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned about the computer issues before COVID, but that is something that is different now, maybe hopefully coming out of COVID with some money that's been made available, right? Bloomfield has been able to provide more computers to more of your students?
Yes, we have one-to-one correspondence with pre-K through 12th grade now.
For the first time ever, right?
Well, it would be this year is the first time we've had that. Well, and what happened is when COVID hit, we did not have the funding to purchase as many as we needed, and there was also a supply chain problem. So we jumped on it as early as possible, and we were able to get it for 3rd through 12th grade. But then a lot of districts weren't even able to get the computers into their schools.
Right.
So we've been able to do that, and we have that available for all kids.
Very exciting. And that really does, I think these days, make a big difference, don't you, in how kids are able to have the same, at least a baseline with technology and equipment to be able to do assignments and things, and it's not the haves and have-nots anymore when everyone has their own computer?
Exactly. And we've purchased a lot of online programs. There's one called Imagine Math and Imagine Reading, and those programs can be utilized during the summer for the students. This year, unfortunately, we will have to collect our computers to see what we have to replace with damage and everything. So we are collecting them and then redistributing them later. So, but just because we didn't do it last summer, because I was wanting kids to have access to everything that they had. But this year we have to do some maintenance work on them. So that's just part of the process, and it's a lot of money to replace technology. So we have to make sure we are taking care of our equipment.
Right, of course. Very good. The other thing I wanted to ask you about that we're not talking about too much is the budget. Our state seems to be pretty flush with money these days. There was a lot of attention given to the education budget, I think, during the legislative session. Teacher salaries got a pretty healthy increase, but I think so did our neighboring states as well. But it seems like budgets are bigger for schools, and do you have all the money you need to to teach the children that you have in Bloomfield schools?
Well, that's an interesting question.
As I was saying it, I
You
was
know,
saying, well, I bet there's never enough money necessarily for all the things you'd like to do on a wish list somewhere.
right, and that has to be really frustrating for our legislation. You know, at New Mexico has been underfunding schools for a while. And so to make up the difference in 1 year is probably impossible. Um, we're just, with the salary increases and the mandated things that had to happen this year, our budget just covers those. The salary increase doesn't cover any operational expense, instructional materials. So we're having to use our cash reserves to cover keeping the schools open. Um, and so that is problematic for a lot of districts. And, it's unfortunate that it wasn't enough. And so we're struggling a little bit. And especially if you have a declining school enrollment, it is even more problematic for school districts. And ours has been declining. We don't have near as many students. And so we don't get near as much money. And so we had enough to cover the salaries, but the rest of it we're having to pick up. And thank goodness we have a nice, healthy savings account, basically.
Right.
So we're going to be okay, but it's going to be without those federal dollars and things like that, when they go away to sustain some of the stuff that has happened, the state is going to have to do huge increases in the future as well.
Got you. And we'll see what happens with those. And the one thing I wanted to ask you a bit about, I think you mentioned it briefly, is the recruiting, right? That you have openings at Bloomfield schools even as we speak. You're working hard to recruit for the fall, as every school district, I think, is. And there's a lot of competition out there, even from our neighboring states. As we increase salaries here in New Mexico, it sounds like our neighbors did that plus even more money for teachers. And so the recruitment picture seems to be even more ruthless, if you will, when it comes to trying to find a good quality teacher.
Yes, it's very competitive. Just give people an idea. We had no idea. We went to recruiting down at New Mexico State, hoping to find some students, and California was there, and they're offering $110 plus a $10,000 signing bonus for first-year teachers, whereas ours is at $50. And if it's a hard-to-fill type position, special ed, science, math, bilingual, will give a $10,000 signing bonus. But yeah, it's tough competition out there to try to get people to work in New Mexico, and same thing in California and Arizona. I mean, theirs is quite a bit higher than ours, so it's disappointing, because we thought, oh, this is a nice increase, but then everybody else did the same thing.
Right, and then some, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Even more. Now, folks may be listening to us saying, well, the cost of living in California, in a lot of places in California, is probably a little higher than it would be maybe in Bloomfield or Farmington, New Mexico. So there is that, I suppose.
Yeah, I was just in San Diego. I have a cousin who lives there, and he pays $5,000 a month for a house. Right?
Yeah. So that extra salary is going to go pretty quick, probably, for stuff
Absolutely.
like that. Or $6 a gallon gasoline, I suppose, right?
I think
These
they're
days.
probably doubling up with people in those houses.
Right. So everything's relative. But still, I get your point, that as the state of New Mexico tries to stay ahead of some of this stuff and honor our teachers with higher salaries, our other neighboring states are doing the same. And so that makes the recruitment a bit difficult. The jobs that you would say you have most need for in Bloomfield schools, Dr. Mizel, is it still things like those specialized teaching areas like math, science, special education, things like that, or is it all across the board?
Pretty much across the board. At the high school, we had quite a few teachers retire, and so we're needing, the content area teachers like science and math, primarily. And then at the elementary, I think at each of the elementaries, especially in Navaani, we have like fourth, fifth teacher openings. It's not too bad. We didn't have a ton of turnover, but as you know, if we aren't able to find people, we do hire long-term subs, so those positions are always posted, and we're hopeful that we'll get a certified teacher. So we have please go to our website and look at what openings are available. And Bloomfield's a great place to work, and I want to encourage people to apply.
Okay, very good. Before we go, Dr. Mizel, I did want to touch back on the car giveaways that you'll be doing later on this week in Bloomfield schools. This, is, of course, is an idea unique to Bloomfield, at least in our area, where every year you have worked with sponsors and local car dealers to secure some used vehicles for your students that are given away depending on grade point averages at the end of the school year. And so, as you mentioned, this year there are 54 eligible students from your two high schools that will be in the drawing, I guess, for one of these two vehicles that you'll be giving away this week, right?
That's right. We have 9 students from our alternative high school, and then the remaining amount is from the BHS, and they range from 9th to 12th grade. So you're eligible if you worked hard all year and you maintain a good GPA, you're eligible.
Very exciting. And I know you and I have talked about this, and we will again in the fall about the winners. But some years, if I remember correctly, there have been a student whose name has been drawn who hadn't quite learned how to drive or needed his permit and has gotten right on that now that there's a new car in the driveway for that student.
That's happened quite a bit, actually. So, you know, that was the first year that we gave them away, the 2 students that won the cars didn't have driver's license. So
Whoops.
it was kind of funny. We had to call parents, come pick them up and take their cars home, but it happens more often than not, depending on what age the child is or where they're at in getting their license or taking the classes. So, yeah, it's kind of funny.
But that's some great motivation, I guess, to get that permit, right? And that license.
They were able to get their license that summer, and I saw them driving around in their car, so they got after it.
Very, very good. And I would think a game changer, too, for some of these students, right, who don't maybe have transportation. This is their first car, and so to be able to maybe now get to work or move on to get back and forth to school or college or whatever their plans are, it's got to be a big deal for some of these families.
It is. You know, in Bloomfield, you know, we have a high level of poverty, and you know, these kids are appreciative of anything, and especially a car. I mean, a lot of them don't they ride the buses and they walk to school. It just depends on where they live, but yeah, so it's a big deal for them to get something like that.
Very good. Well, it's a great program that you have brought to the district with your superintendency, and so excited for it, and we'll look forward to hearing about the winners as their names are drawn later this week, and of course celebrate your graduation as well and all the successes of your students. So thank you, Dr. Mizel, for joining me throughout the school year. We have a kind of standing invite to pick things up again in August, all right?
That's right. We'll see you next August.
Okay. Have a great summer, Dr. Kim Mizel.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Dr. Kim Mizel, she is the superintendent of schools with the Bloomfield School District, so gracious with her time to join me throughout the school year every month here on KSJE. Back with more in just a moment. KSJE is proud to support Riverfest, Memorial Day weekend, May 27th, 28th, and 29th on the banks of the Animas River in Farmington. Enjoy all-day music, food, beer gardens, vendors, crafts and raft rides, the recycled art show, and the plein air painters. Riverfest, a jolt-worthy event, proudly hosted by the River Reach Foundation, sponsored in part by the City of Farmington and the Farmington Convention and Visitors Bureau. Find out more at riverfestnewmexico.com. KSJE is supported by the Farmington Civic Center, bringing a full slate of entertainment to Farmington and San Juan County. The interactive art of Artrageous, Saturday, May 21st at 7:30 p.m. The Farmington Civic Center, 200 West Arrington in downtown Farmington. Find out more online at fmtn.org/shows or 505-599-1148. AM Monday morning here on KSJE, and it's time for our Monday Reboot segment. That's when I get to talk technology with my next guest, Lewis Campbell from Cintigy Computer Systems. Lewis is joining us remotely this morning. Lewis, good morning. It's good to see you.
Hello. Good morning.
How's your Monday?
It is good.
That's
How's your
good.
Monday?
Well, so far so good. It's a Monday, but it is what it is. What it is. So,
Good point.
what's been going on? I guess we have to talk about Twitter and
Of course.
Elon Musk, who says, "Well, maybe I'm going to put a pause on this for a minute or two."
Yeah, here we go again.
Right, on again, off again. What do you think?
Honestly, Scott, I'm having trouble keeping up with this whole
I know, right?
soap opera because it just changes like every what? It's 5 minutes now. Let's see if it's changed again.
Right, right.
So he's saying now it has something to do with the fact that they're reporting that false or spam accounts comprise less than 5% of its monetizable user.
Right.
I guess he's skeptical about that, so I don't know. But of course, this came after he announced that once I own Twitter, I'm going to reinstate Donald Trump and that whole thing too. So again, I still go back and forth. I mean, is he really wanting to buy Twitter, or is he really just like spending his money and his political capital in an effort to make noise and kind of move Twitter the way he wants it to go by just being out there?
Right, but he has statements. I mean, he did make an agreement to buy them, right? And isn't there some kind of penalty if the deal falls through or they don't come through with the deal, right? I mean, I guess what's $1 billion to him in a penalty, but
yeah, I mean, again, Scott, you got to. I have to be, and I'm sorry if I'm jaundiced about this, but it's just been my experience that at that level, people don't really agreements don't mean much to them.
It's only money.
Yeah, well, because also they can break agreements all the time and just fight it in court. I mean,
true.
It's part of the game.
I guess that's a good point. You're right.
Yeah,
so, and
I don't know. That's just my opinion. Okay, listeners, this is totally my opinion, right?
Sure.
This is no basis in actual reporting or facts. So don't call Scott and get mad at him because of what I said. It's just an opinion.
I'll forward the call to you. It's okay, and that's
Yeah,
all right.
there you go.
But I guess you're right. If I had to pay $1 billion in a penalty, maybe I'll just have him sue me and pay $1 million in legal fees and settle it that way.
Yep.
I don't know, right? It's only money. So
wouldn't be surprised.
There you go. But in the meantime, of course, if he had any investments, which I'm sure he did in the stock market or elsewhere or crypto, that's all cratered as well. So he may not have as much money on paper that he had when he made the deal.
Oh, I know. And speaking of crypto,
yes.
Since it would be nice to talk about something else.
Yes,
Elon
please.
Musk, Bitcoin keeps going down.
It does.
Down, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Now, most people would say, "Oh my gosh, be scared of Bitcoin now." But of course, if you're really wanting to look at something as an investment, I don't know. Maybe I'm not going to say it's time to buy because, again, caveat here: we don't do investment advice. Don't do anything based on what we said. We're not professional financial people. But,
True. But I guess the thing was, I always thought that the big selling point of the cryptocurrencies was that they were immune from some of these market ups and downs and things like that. And here we see that they're not, apparently.
Well, that's actually never been the selling point of crypto. The selling point of crypto is the whole point of crypto is that crypto was offered, again, it's offered as a currency. It's designed to be a currency. People have been using it as an investment platform because of the volatility, right? Because volatility means it's going to go up fast.
Okay.
It's going to go down fast too.
Okay.
But the idea was always that crypto is supposed to be an alternative. The whole idea is every other currency has to be backed by a government, right? So some government ends up controlling the currency. If crypto's value, basically the supply versus demand equation, is controlled by an algorithm, so not a government. And that was the whole idea, is that we invent a currency that everybody can use that no government can control. The problem is that the algorithm is it's dependent on people having availability of electrical power and all this other stuff. And so what we're finding is that the algorithm itself, the basis of a lot of these cryptocurrencies, isn't as stable as we would like it to be. But again, that has been largely driven by people using it as an investment vehicle. If people stopped using it as an investment vehicle, it would stabilize. So, there's this kind of catch-22 vicious circle going on here. And the bottom line is, who knows what crypto is going to be 10 years from now?
Right. Well, but I think that's the thing. And of course, we've got, I forget which, is it El Salvador that adopted Bitcoin as its governmental currency, right? And so they're buying more. I think they're doubling down to
doubling down because
to buy
they're feeling
more
the
at the low
pain.
price.
And it's like,
So,
It's like, okay, we adopted this our cryptocurrency, now it crashed. It's the same thing as if they had a government currency and they suffered massive inflation, right? So, but their way of solving it is, well, we're going to buy more of it, try to drive the price up. But there's going to be a lot more than just one small government buying crypto that's going to have to drive that price up. I mean, investors are going to have to get interested in Bitcoin again. So
right.
We'll see.
Okay. Very interesting. Anything else that's hitting your radar this week?
Oh, that's not enough.
That is enough. I think that's plenty.
Well, Russia's being hit with all kinds of breaches now. I mean,
oops.
The story for Vladimir Putin just gets worse and worse and worse. And when you come at it from a technological side, it's like the whole world in the whole dark web world, if you will, dark web, good web, every web, has kind of come to the aid of the Ukrainians. And so, Russia went in on, militarily and thought they were going to just wipe Ukraine out, and that didn't happen. And now they're finding out that with all these great offensive cybersecurity assets they thought they had, they're getting slammed because, their defenses aren't as good as their offense, and the entire world on the internet is basically hacking Russia.
Wow.
And they're hitting it.
Right.
Russia's media regulator lost 20 years of email.
Whoops.
A bunch of Russian based software companies and stuff like that are getting their source code stolen. And the downside is, though, that there's no discrimination going on here. So who knows whether the things that are getting hacked are actually in collusion with the Russian government or just innocent companies or whatever that are suffering from this. But basically, right now, if you're online and you have any connection with Russia, you're a target.
Right. Well, sure.
And these people are taking this data and posting them on the internet. So, right. There's a cybersecurity researcher being quoted in Ars Technica that says basically, quote, there are tens of terabytes of data that are just falling out of the sky, unquote. So, yeah, it's interesting.
Wow.
We'll see how this goes.
Yeah. And to add insult to injury, they're losing all their McDonald's restaurants.
Oh my God!
As of today,
how can you survive as a society without McDonald's?
I don't think you can. Well, we'll see. But McDonald's is pulling out 850 restaurants closing. So, one last thought from Inverse is an article that says the supermassive black hole that was discovered at the heart of our galaxy proves that Albert Einstein was right. His theory of general relativity, apparently.
Yep.
So there's that.
Yes.
So Einstein says,
if you're into quantum mechanics, there's a whole lot of other stuff that's tied up with that supermassive black hole that it verifies. I won't even go. We're not going to go off on that tangent. Don't get me started.
It's kind of early on a Monday
to be going for hours.
Talk about quantum mechanics for me, but it's interesting. So I like that. All right, Lewis.
Quantum mechanics is fun.
That is all the time we have this morning. But thank you for joining me. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Hi, have a great week, everybody.
All right, you too. That is Lewis Campbell from Cintigy Computer Systems. He joins me every Monday at this time to talk technology. It's our Monday Reboot segment right here on KSJE Farmington. San Juan Regional Medical Center is your community hospital, committed to making life better for the communities we are privileged to serve. In fact, better is our mission. Improving lives through personalized health and care. What matters most to our patients matters most to us, offering a comprehensive range of inpatient, outpatient, and emergency care services so you can get the quality care you need right here at home. San Juan Regional Medical Center, celebrating life better here since 1910. Did you enjoy that podcast? We hope that you did. And if you did, share it with your friends. And if you really want to keep podcasts like this coming, please support KSJE. You can do it easily online at ksje.com.